Hi guys, today I'm going to teach you how to etch glass. Now there are several ways that you can go about doing this, some of which I will cover in my other tutorials, but today I'm going to teach you how to etch glass using a stencil, which is a very quick and easy method with minimal cleanup, and the really great part about it is you can make some awesome personalized recycled gifts. Turning something old into something new is very in right now, and it's also just a little bit better for the environment, so let's get started. Now there are some essential tools that you're going to need to do your glass etching. You have your glass, scissors, marker, tape, a ruler, a paintbrush, and then here you have your acid etch, which is actually hydrofluoric acid in a paste form. Now, I highly recommend this product. I've been using it for years. It says new and improved, but I don't think that they've changed the recipe for years. This is actually the first bottle that I ever got, and I've since moved some of this into this bottle. So actually, I've had this actual little bottle for about 10 years. So really, it's very reliable product. Now here you have your glass etching stencils, which are also made by the Armour Etch company. They're not that costly and they're very easy to use. You don't necessarily need to use stencils when you're doing a glass etching, but as I said, we're going to cover that in another tutorial. So today we're starting with the basics. Now when removing your stencil from the packaging, it'll come with a popsicle stick, but it'll also have this backing sheet of frosted paper. They highly suggest that you keep this on here while you're separating your stencil from the others, just to not get any hand oils or anything else on the back. And then we carefully, try to carefully cut this. Now, generally, you don't want these two to separate because it can get dust on the back. Now, this is where you're going to use your popsicle stick. Now that we're taped on there well, this is sort of like a, what do you call them? Like a decal. So you're going to actually rub your design on there, but you need to hold it firmly and make sure that you rub lightly and firmly. You definitely don't want to dig into the stencil because you can scar the backing. And as you see, it's getting a lighter shade where you know that it's stuck pretty well. Especially around the design where you may be missing stuff, you might want to go over it a couple more times just to be exact. When you're through rubbing on the decal stencil, you want to carefully remove the tape first and then the plastic covering, but I'm going to actually do both because sometimes I cheat. You just want to make sure to do it very carefully because if you lose any of the blue, it'll definitely affect your design. And as you can see, you have some air bubbles here. You want to push them down as well as possible and move them as far from the clear parts of the stencil as you can. When your stencil looks perfect with no air bubbles, then the instructions actually suggest that you tape the edges, but because I don't have masking tape, I'm just going to do this very carefully. you're going to need a paintbrush, but because you're working with an acidic medium, you really should probably use something that isn't a very expensive paintbrush because it may get damaged eventually. And you want to shake up your Armour Etch. And the acidity of the product that you're using is also a good reason to wear gloves, just to protect your hands, especially if you have sensitive skin. But it's suggested by the Armour company, so we will definitely do that. Always follow safety precautions. And you want to dip your brush in. And as I said, I'm not going to tape the edges because I don't want to damage the stencil anymore, so I'm going to be very, very careful to only use the acid etching cream on the actual clear part of the stencil. If I take it over the edge of this blue square at all, it will instantly mar the glass. So it's very important to keep it on the design only. And while you're doing this, you also want to generously apply the acid. There's no reason to use a light coating because it just won't work as well. You may have to also apply another coat. So keep that in mind before you remove the actual stencil. Now, the packaging suggests that you let the acid sit for only 1 minute, but no more, no less than 1 minute. I actually like to let it sit just a little bit longer. I've never had any adverse effects from that. But I like to just to make sure that it's actually, you know, doing a full-on job here. As I said, sometimes you have to go over it again. So we're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then the next step. And also you can wash your brush at the same time. Oh, see, that is one reason to make sure that you do not have those air bubbles. Now our next step is to just remove the stencil. You may be able to take it off just like this. But if there are little remainder pieces, maybe using some tape or scratch it off. Like so. Now here we have our finished product. As you can see, the etching shows the lighthouse tower. And also, to make this item a little bit more special, I frosted the sides, and you don't need a stencil to do this freeform etching. You just slap the paste right on, and it works the same as with a stencil. And another thing to keep in mind is you always want to keep your acid etching away from children and animals while you're waiting for the cream to set, because you do not want them getting into that. And let's just take a good look at this. And this is a permanent thing too. This it actually eats away at the glass, so that, never do this until you are prepared to do it properly. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on etching glass. If you have any other suggestions that you'd like to see from me in the future, please post below in the comments and also subscribe. Thanks.